do the blessing tonight. And I'm honored in the memory of all those that went through the hard times, the residential school era. But now it's time to start looking at healing.
Whenever we do anything in our culture, we are told that we must celebrate. Sometimes it's like a medicine wheel, if you imagine a medicine wheel, the way things start. It starts on one side where you just think about it. And it's that thought and that prayer and that imagination that brings you forward and guides you forward to the point where you actually get to take physical action and a step towards it. But as you're going around, you find that halfway through you feel like sometimes you just want to quit. Sometimes you want to stop. But you stay focused and you keep those prayers alive and you remember why you started and you move forward. And as you do that, you find that you come to the coldest part and 3/4 of the way finish. And when you finally complete it, we should celebrate. Here we are today to celebrate a thought that was a part of people here in the city, a thought that was a prayer that was there 100 years ago. And today we get to finish that cycle. And as we do, we celebrate and we give thanks. So that's what today is all about.
We acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries. Together, we call upon our collective, honored traditions and spirits to continue on building a great city for current and future generations.
Proud to be serving with a government that has a deep respect for the important role that First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people have played in the founding and development of our province, and the contributions that they continue to make. You know, events like this, they offer us a real opportunity to continue fostering reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, and to raise awareness around Alberta's true history.
I'm Edmonton's Historian Laureate, but tonight I'm here as a founding member of RISE and a very proud member of this group. And I'm so excited to see you all here tonight to celebrate and enjoy, hopefully, and engage in discussions around the poetry and the pictures and the paintings that we have created. When Miranda Jimmy, Anna Marie Sewell, Jenny Vett, and I met in May at a RISE meeting, first one really, that Scott was at, I knew we could bring together our passions for art, poetry, and history to move reconciliation forward in a positive way here in the city.
21st century eyes can see destruction, shame. Do you suppose they know what lies ahead? Sitting high, regalia will be outlawed, will survive, will become homecoming, homecoming, homecoming. Circles, Indian dance, I don't believe. This is Edmonton, but dig, squint, there it is. Wide dirt road, White Avenue, where the Dairy Queen sits today. Bless the voyage, offer tribute, take back the land with song. Drummers, singers, elders pray on smoke while the passers-by watch. Bowler hats, bicycles, buggies, Red River carts. Why have they gathered? This is Edmonton.
Allah really heartwarming to see the Edmonton community coming together in solidarity for peace and humanity. There has been a lot of backlash against ethnic minorities and religious minorities, but today is a day where we stand together, where we denounce any act of violence. Together we stand as a community with our brothers and sisters from diverse backgrounds.
What we have seen is a distortion of people's understanding of religions. And I find that those who use violence as a necessity to promote their dissent with a government, that is the greatest argument against their claims of dissent. Because how can you justify and stand forth with a person who does not have the ability to have civil discord, to show disagreement with views that are contrary to one's?
I know that we are here for a very solemn occasion, but we are also here as an act of solidarity, that we all stand together in the face of difficult circumstances that we saw in Beirut and in Mali and in Paris and Nigeria. These acts of violence trouble all of us a great deal and certainly make us anxious and afraid sometimes. But in the act of standing together and together in prayer, we can overcome these fears and insecurities to know that the vast majority of all of us desire to live in peace, to desire to raise our families, and desire to work together in community in the broadest possible way, and to hand down those values to the next generation. And so, while we meet together in sadness, we overcome those same feelings in our community together.
In these times of fear and division, it's essential that communities do come together in solidarity and make a call for peace in the way that we're doing today. And I really commend MLA Lauren Dack and the Muslim Association of Canada and all of you for coming together to do this. I have a very personal connection. My ex-husband is Lebanese, and he escaped the violence in Beirut with his family when he was very young. They came to Canada, and I'm very familiar with the stories of the things that they endured, both while still in Beirut and after they came to Canada. And I know that since coming here, they've worked hard to become productive Canadian citizens and to make wonderful contributions to this great province of Alberta that we live in. So the events in Beirut were very close to my heart. The hundreds of thousands of children, women, and men who are currently fleeing from Syria are just like my husband's family. And they are also innocent, and they need our help. They deserve to live in peace and security, and it is our responsibility to renew their hope through freedom, equality, and fraternity, working together. We enjoy this kind of peace and security here in Alberta, and we want to share it.
Sometimes joking is something we do when we're at a very deep, saddened situation, and that's what we're in today. We're here to stand in solidarity with all these victims and their families. It's even harder for the families sometimes, to live with the loss that they've had. All over the world, we see these types of crimes of violence that we condemn as an association, that we condemn as a nation, that we condemn as people all over the world. And really, that's what it's all about here today. We come together as brothers and sisters in humanity, believing in one important goal and one important thing, and that's peace and loving to one another.
This is more than just a symbolic sort of act of prayer. As has been said earlier, we are gathered here to stand in solidarity, for peace and also inclusiveness. We stand in solidarity for peace because, as has been repeated by many of our honorable speakers today, any act of extremism, or particularly when it takes the lives of innocent individuals, has no place in our faith. We are told that repeatedly with reference to the Holy Quran and the examples of the Prophet, peace be upon him, in terms of loving thy neighbor and working collaboratively with other communities, as was shown throughout ages.
We're gonna stand all together, regardless of our religion, background, color, race, language, to crack terrorism down. And we are gonna stand together to act as a human being and live as one community, one nation in this beautiful country.
Sure, make me look like a crazy.
All right, this is a message for Justin Trudeau. We are here in Edmonton, in the heart of the oil sands. We are in Alberta at the legislature grounds to tell you that 100% renewables are
100% possible! Thank you guys for coming out, and I'm glad we're here being Treaty 6 territory. And I'm from the Treaty 8. I'm from Sucker Creek First Nation, and I'm seeing a lot of it, what's happening with the climate change back home, where my creeks and rivers were all flowing, and we had water whenever we needed it, and it's not there anymore. And being in a city, something that we don't really, I'm not from the city, but being from seeing what the people in the city see, they don't really see the damage unless you're out there on the land. And we see that continuously, and it's really scary. We need to get people out there and say, go and see what's happening, because
you know, I'm good about talking about reason and rational things and stuff like that, but I want to tell you, and we all know this, there is nothing reasonable about what we are doing to the planet, is there? More facts aren't necessary. We have enough climate science. Despite what some ridiculous deniers and skeptics think, we have enough climate science, we have enough facts to say what we need to do. We need to focus on our shared values. And again, those are values that transcend our particular being human here in Alberta to all humanity. And not only all humanity, but to all of the beings on the earth.
It is easier to avoid the creation of greenhouse gases than to mitigate their effect. A lot of times we're going to the wrong end of the pipeline, literally, to deal with the problems. If we do these simple things, no, they're not simple, they're bloody hard. Especially that last one I brought up, because our species has lived very well for a long time with meat. But I think we've evolved a little bit more so that we can do without it. Michael Pollan and other food activists have said that, it takes 10 calories of food, of energy to create 1 calorie of food that goes into our body. And that's from industrial agriculture. I would like to make a pitch for organic. Organic, 83% of the greenhouse gases happens before the food leaves the farm. That means that organic is something like 10 times more efficient in reducing the use of fossil fuel than industrial agriculture. Only 17% of greenhouse gases is by food miles, by storage, processing, all of that. It's the farm, the production that we have to go. We have to go to the front end. Consume less, consume wisely, consume locally, consume fairly, and as always,
we the people cherish the earth. We the people cherish the earth. We the people cherish the earth.
This next song is kind of related to the previous one in a way, in that the industry of the tar sands often creates a boom and bust cycle in our economy, which then can sometimes lead to housing shortages and such. And this is a song that I wrote on that very topic about not only that, but the effects of that environmentally, especially on the First Nations communities, and frankly all of us we all live downstream from the tar sands, and we all need clean air and we all need clean water. And untainted food, and this is a song called about that, called Butterflies and Rainbows. When I was little, I sang about rainbows, butterflies so lovely, and the sky so blue. But today I can't see the rainbows, the butterflies are gone, the sky has changed color too. But I've been told that I'm very lucky to live in a place with so much money to spend. Many people who are chasing rainbows think we're the pot of gold at the end. Then they learn looks can be deceiving when they discover there's nowhere to live. Cost of housing and everything shoots up until they have got nothing to give. Not far away up north, there's the tar sands. People are dying, so is a way of life. Exploitation's price is too high, costing the land and its people strife. All in the name of shipping our oil down south to lubricate a war machine that invades the countries and murders. Even now our hands are not clean. How I long for the days of rainbows and for the butterflies to soar again. Someone must tell these huge corporations violation of Earth has to end. Then one day we can live in freedom from the bust that follows the boom. When we're told that we've got a good thing, we should answer by asking for room. When we're told that we've got a good thing, we should answer by asking for room.
Yay, nice side.
It's really too bad that these signs never go out of style.
On here today.
Hello, my name is David Lang. We're having an information picket with the Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism. We're protesting the war in Syria and Iraq. We want to get the troops out, and we also want to send a clear message that refugees are welcome in Canada.
But the Trudeau government, one of the promises is that the bombing on Syria is going to stop. So in that regard, isn't that satisfactory enough?
Well, I want to see it actually happen. The Prime Minister's words are one thing, his actions are another. So until I see it happen, we need to continue to put pressure on the Liberal government to follow through with their word.
As well, are you satisfied with the Liberal government's commitment to accept refugees?
I hope they stay firm on it. And again, I'm happy that the Liberal government is willing to bring in refugees, though I want to make sure it happens, and I want to see it happen. I know it is beginning to happen in the East already, which is encouraging. So I am happy that the Liberal government is bringing in refugees. I just want to make sure that it does happen, and until it does happen, we'll continue to put public pressure on the Liberal government to do so.
So what's happening here today?
Okay, well, Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism is having one of its regular pickets.
During the election, we had a picket every week, and this is our first one since the election. So, of course, we're pointing out one of the things that's on everyone's minds these days is the necessity for Canada to welcome refugees. So, we're taking a stand that Canada needs to welcome refugees, and Canada needs to adopt a stand in favor of peace, which is not creating refugees. So there's two really big problems with the stand of the government as it is right now. The first is that it's raising false issues of security in order to avoid carrying out its promises. It promised 25,000 government-sponsored refugees by year-end. Winter has come and life is becoming even more precarious for the refugees. We have the largest refugee crisis, at least since the Second World War. And in fact, only 10,000 mainly privately sponsored refugees will be here by Christmas. Security is being used as the excuse when everyone, including the Liberal government, certainly the Liberal government is aware that refugees are people who are seeking security and security from terrorism. They are not a threat in any way to Canada. And so the creation of this idea that refugees are a security problem is part of the whole demonization against immigrants, especially Muslims. For example, they talk about ISIS and groups like that as Muslim terrorists. Why not identify them as the proxy armies of the countries who are arming and funding them, instead of attacking Muslims worldwide and making this identification? Why not say these are the proxy armies of Turkey and Saudi Arabia, that they're being funded by France and the US and other countries, and let people know the real situation. So the second thing is that Canada is still following this policy of regime change in Syria, which has been, everyone knows, such a disaster, and it just created millions of refugees in Afghanistan and in Iraq.
So anyway, we have two.
We say that it's up to the Syrian people, and only the Syrian people to decide their own future.
I was like, holy shit, where are we going?
And so, Canada has to stop its policy of supporting regime change. We want Canada to stop the bombing and training missions and no troops on the ground. Finally, we noted that in the throne speech there was not a single word about Bill C-51, and Canadians are demanding, ECOWAR is demanding that Bill C-51, Harper's legislation, which is a profound assault on the right to conscience and on people's civil liberties, be revoked as soon as possible, immediately. Thank you.
What are the issues that brought you out to this event today?
I'm concerned about the use of political violence in the world and how various Western powers are emphasizing terrorism, but at the same time not discussing how our uses of force in the world are contributing to these problems. Specifically, the fact that there's no, to my understanding, there's no UN resolution authorizing any bombing in Syria, that we are, turning a blind eye to the influences of nations such as Saudi Arabia and Turkey that may be contributing to this problem. And I think that we need to put our moral principles and our understanding of human rights primarily first and foremost ahead of rhetoric about security concerns and stuff like that. And I'm especially concerned with how various terror bills that have been passed throughout the Western democracies are now being used not to fight terrorism but to suppress public dissent and public protesting, especially say in the case after the Paris attacks where security bills were used to shut down protesters at COP21 and the Global Climate Change Summits.